Thank you for coming today. So good to see you. Get ready for the translation or taking notes or whatever you have to do. If you are taking notes, today's message, the speaker is Kris. And the message title is Hearing God. Listening to God. In the book of James. That book of James, chapter 1. 2 weeks ago, I gave a sermon on hearing God. And I thought, well, it's such a big topic that it would be important to speak more on it. So it's kind of a small series that I'm doing on hearing God, listening to what God tells us. How can we hear God's voice? How do we know if God is speaking to us? In what ways does God talk to us? And in the first sermon, I talked about John chapter 8, and a small part where Jesus says, "He who belongs to God hears what God says." And so, the first thing to know or remember, if you want to hear God's voice, is that you have to belong to God. Because he who hears God, or he who belongs to God, hears what God says. That's the word of our Lord Jesus. It's not what religion you are. It's not what you believe. It's not what church you go to. It's not how long you've been a Christian. It's not have you been baptized or not. It's not what ministry do you do. It's not those things that allow you to hear from God. The question that's most important is, do you belong to God? Do you belong to God? Does everything in your life belong to God? And that's the most important thing if you are going to hear from God. Because Jesus said, he who belongs to God hears what God says. And so today is the second sermon in the series. And today I'd like to talk about hearing God means obeying God. Hearing God means obeying God. You see, there are two verbs, hearing and obeying. But really, they're not two things. They are one thing. If you hear God, you must obey God. They're not two different things. They work together. You see, and you can't have one without the other. For example, if you only have obedience and not hearing, you're just doing things as a Christian, or because you believe God, or because you go to church. That's obedience. If you're just doing things, that's religion. That's not a relationship with God. You're just acting because you have to. It's your obligation. In fact, there's a story, when Jesus was still here on earth and he had many followers, and he would visit houses. And he went to the house of a woman named Mary. And in the house, there's lots of people. It's like church, and Jesus is teaching, and there's many people, kids running all over the place, and people are hungry, so, they have to serve food. And so Mary's sister, her name was Martha, she was running around taking care of, getting the coffee, making the snacks, setting everything up, making sure everybody's comfortable. She was the hostess. This was her house. This was her house. And so she was running around all over the place. And her sister, Mary, she was just sitting and listening to God. And Martha is running around, doing all these things, and Mary listening to Jesus teach. And finally, Martha's just tired of it. She said, Jesus, just a moment, Jesus. I'm running around doing all these things. It's going crazy. And Mary, she's just sitting there. Can you please tell her to help me? And you know what Jesus says? He says, Martha, you're worried about so many things. This, that, the other. You're worried. But only one thing is needful. You only need one thing. And Mary chose that one thing. And that will not be taken away from her. Mary chose to listen, to hear from God. But Martha just chose to act. And it's just obedience. So you can't have obedience without hearing. On the other side, you can't have hearing without obedience. You can't have just listening to God and not doing anything. Hearing without obedience basically is entertainment. You come to church and you listen. Oh, it's good music. Well, not the best music, but it's okay, right? Oh, it's good. Oh, that was a good sermon. And you go home, and that's it. You go to church, you listen to the music, you listen to the sermon. Maybe it's entertaining. They have good stories. Maybe you have some snacks, and you go home, and that's it. You heard God, and God was here, but what difference has it made in your life? Nothing. You've just been entertained. It's like a club. Right? And so you can't have listening without obedience. Because you see, as a pastor here, that's the thing. I don't worry about, is my sermon good? Are there people going to be here on Sunday to hear my sermon? I used to worry about those things. But God taught me that's not important. And I don't care about, is this the best music? Of course we want to do our best, but we don't need the best instruments or the best voices. I mean, you hear us. You don't have the best, but we give our best, and that's the most important. I don't worry about how many people are coming to church. The church is not successful if there's many people. That does not matter to me. It should not matter to us. The measure of a successful church is if the people obey God. That is it. If your life is different on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because of what you've come here to do on Sunday, then we are a successful church. This is a successful church. It could be just you and me, just the two of us. But we're successful because we're obeying the Word of God. Because hearing God means obeying God. Those two go together. That's what I'm talking about today. So we're going to the book of James. Chapter 1. Very good word. James was one of Jesus' top 3 men. It was Jesus, and he had many disciples, but his top 3 guys were Peter, John, and his brother James. And these 3 were like brothers, and in fact 2 of them were brothers. And James wrote this book, the book of James. And in chapter 1, we're going to read from verse 22 to 25. Very short passage. James chapter 1, 22 to 25. Verse 22. Do not, excuse me, my mistake. Excuse me. Verse 19. My mistake. Verse 19. My dear brothers, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. For man's anger does not bring about the righteous life that God desires. Verse 21. Therefore get rid of all moral filth and the evil that is so prevalent, and humbly accept the word planted in you, which can save you. Verse 22. Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like a man who looks at his face in the mirror and after looking at himself goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. 25. But the man who looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues to do this, not forgetting what he has heard, but doing it, he will be blessed in what he does. If you come to church, listen to the music, feel God. Ooh, it's good in here. Hear the testimony. Hear the sermon. Oh, that was fun. Good story. And you go home, and that's it. And you thought, oh, yes, I've been a Christian. I've heard God. You're deceiving yourself. You're deceiving yourself. It says right there. Verse 22. Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourself. That's the first part. It's like a man who, after looking at his face in the mirror, forgets what he saw. Just a moment. You ever do that? I like that illustration. You ever look in the mirror and, oh, wait, double check. That happens to me sometimes. For me, I look at my watch. You know, you look at your watch and you look again. You forgot. But, you know, sometimes you do it 3 times, you know, just to make sure. You ever do that? Story of my life. Or sometimes you're so busy, you know, you're walking and you're thinking, and you're in a room, and you think, why am I in this room? What am I doing here? Am I getting something? And the thing is, my apartment, it's one room. But I'll walk in, I'm like, am I taking a shower or doing the laundry? I walk in, hey, am I going to the bathroom or getting a drink of water? What am I doing? You do that sometimes? Yeah. Right? So you're here in Japan, and you're in Japan, why am I in this country? What am I doing here? Who am I? Where am I? What are these people saying? We walk through life sometimes. Why am I here? What is my purpose for being here? And we forget. What is your purpose? Why are you here? Why are you here? It's because God brought you here. You are here, not for your purpose, not to do work, not for what you want to do, but because God knew from before you were even born what you were supposed to do. Before He even made you inside your mother's womb, He had you here at this very place at this very time. That is God's reason for you being here. It's not your plan to do whatever you want or to go to work or those things. Yes, you're here for those reasons, but the main purpose you're here is because God called you. It says in the Word, no one comes to the Father unless God calls them. And I read this morning in Romans chapter 9, 17, God said, I raised you up for this purpose, that my power might be displayed in you. For this purpose, that my power may be displayed in you, and that the nations would know my name through you. That's awesome. That's your purpose. That's why you're here. To show people God's awesome power. It's awesome. You are here to show the people at your office that when they look at your life, they see the way that you work, they see that your attitude is good. They think, yeah, maybe there is a God. You are here to show your family that when they see you and your life and your joy that's inside of you, they think, wow, yeah, she knows God. If there is a God, she knows Him. If there is a God, He has a relationship. It's so that the power of God might be displayed in your life, and that the nations would know His name. That's why you're here. And we forget that. Christians forget that when they're disobedient. It's like looking in the mirror and forgetting what you saw. You forget your purpose. And you forget the reason why you're made when you disobey God. Because you may have heard God, but it's meaningless if you don't hear it. Because hearing God means obeying God. Amen? Okay? Hearing God and obeying God. Obeying God means putting into practice what you've already heard from God. Not what you're going to hear or not what you're hearing now, but already what you heard. Obeying God means doing what you've already heard from the Lord. You know, it's one of my favorite places in the Bible. Jesus, he's starting his ministry. He's getting it warmed up. And he gives this sermon. He goes up on a mountain, and there's just, he can't meet in a building. There's too many people. So he goes to the mountain. And it's called the Sermon on the Mount. You can find it in the book of Matthew. It starts at chapter 5. It goes 2 chapters all the way to chapter 7. It's called the Sermon on the Mount. And Jesus, woo, this sermon. You think I preach good? Jesus preaches good. Jesus is the sermon. And it's just awesome. He talks about the kingdom of heaven. And this kingdom, you see, he's talking to Jews, the people of Israel. And the Jews thought, yeah, we are the kingdom of heaven. We are God's people. But Jesus is saying, let me tell you what the kingdom of God really is. And he takes the Bible, takes all of the first part of the Bible, the Old Testament, and it's called the law. And he just talks about that. And he said, what you thought was the kingdom of heaven is so much deeper and so much bigger than you thought up until now. You read the law and it says, you know, if you kill somebody, you're a murderer. It goes deeper than that. If you even look at your brother with hate in your heart, you killed somebody. That's the kingdom of heaven. It's not this physical thing that you do. It's in your heart. The kingdom of heaven is not what you see. It's what you don't see. It's a spiritual thing. You know, it says in the Old Testament, if you have sexual relationships with a married woman, you have committed adultery. And Jesus says, no. It goes deeper than that. If you just look at a woman with sexual thoughts in your heart, lust in your heart, you've committed adultery. That's the kingdom of heaven. And he goes on and on. It says in the law, but let me tell you what the law really means. And people thought, wow, Jesus is teaching us this new thing. It's the new gospel. It's, the new king. But Jesus was just teaching them the Old Testament. He was bringing them back to the basic meaning of the Old Testament. You see, good preaching and good teaching, it's not that you hear something new. It's not new revelation or new teaching or new ideas. Good teaching is just telling you the truth. And the truth, it's never new. The truth is the truth. It's been the truth from the beginning, and it will always be the truth. And so a good preacher will not tell you something you've never heard before. What a good preacher will do is teach you, again, maybe something that you've forgotten. The basic truth of God's Word. And so Jesus is teaching us things. And God, this is what the kingdom of God is. And then at the end of the sermon, at the very end, Jesus is this last thing. He says, now I've got all these things to tell you. You've heard what I've said. But the most important thing is not that you've just listened to me, but it's that you put it into practice. It's that you do it. It's like this. It's like a house that was built on a rock. And the rain came down. And the water rose up. And the wind just blew from the side. Like basically a typhoon just came through on the house. But the house that was built on the rock was solid. And so it stayed up. But he says, but the man who hears what I say and doesn't do them or put them into practice, it's like a man who built another house. And he built it on the sand. The rain came down, the waters came up, the wind blew on the house, and it was gone. Because hearing God and obeying Him are the same thing. And if you don't obey, you might as well build your house on the sand. You know, I love walking to church. I walk to church from my apartment. I just crossed the river. And ever since I came to Japan, I noticed something, that the rivers never have, well, the rivers are very nice. They're very lovely places, right? Nice to go jogging and everything. I thought, wow, it's a great place to maybe put a restaurant, right? Or maybe a shopping center. You can make so much money, you know, just from having just the atmosphere. Put a nice little music club right there by the riverside. It's called the Riverside Restaurant. Yeah, but tables on the second floor. There's a view of romantic, the whole thing, right? It's great. Or, you do some shopping. Instead of going downtown, all those cars, noise, go by the riverside, just easy and stroll. Nice, right? I thought, man, why don't Japanese people do this? It's genius. You need to do this. Somebody needs to get this idea and do this, right? And I was crossing the river the other day, and I saw they were reinforcing the bank with rocks, there's a crane there in the river, and they're working on the river, and I thought, it's sand. You can't build a restaurant on the riverside. It's just sand. You can't stand. Right? There's no point. There's no foundation. It's just going to get blown away. Once the typhoon number 27 comes, it's gone. Right? And that is hearing God. Yes, you will have typhoons in your life. Storms are going to blow. The water is going to come down. The waters are going to come up. The wind's going to come from the side. I had typhoons this week. Spiritually, physically, I was getting blown all over the place. But I had to hold on to that rock. And what is holding on? That's obeying what Jesus said. And the thing is, it's doing what Jesus had already said. Nothing new. Nothing new. It's what you already know in your heart. You want to hear from God about this situation? You want to hear from God about this relationship? Go back to what you already know and what you've already heard and start to obey Him there. Yeah. Jesus talks about the law in Matthew, in the Sermon on the Mount. And he says this in John chapter 8. These are my teachings. If you hold to my teachings, you are my disciples. If you obey my word, you are my disciples. If you obey my word, what you already have right here. You don't need a voice from heaven. You don't need some small whisper. You don't need a sign that says, go this way. You don't need that. You've got it right here. If you obey my word, you will be my disciples. And you will know the truth. And the truth will set you free. That's your purpose, to live on this life. It's to live free. It's for people to look at you and see, man, that guy's free. He's free from the love of money. He's free from all these relationship problems. He's free from wandering around and not knowing what he's doing. It's the law that sets you free. And it says right there, James chapter 1, verse 25. All right? But the man who looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom. It's a law, but that gives freedom. Now, you want to be free? Obey God. And the freedom will happen. It will come. And that's just the message today. That's the message. Hearing God means obeying God. Obeying God means just putting into practice what you've already heard from Jesus Christ. Nothing new. Nothing like, wow, I just realized it. You don't need that. Just go back to what you've already heard from God. I'm going to stop there. There's more on this on verse 19 and going down, but I'll cover that next week. It'll be the last part of this series that we're doing on hearing God. Today we had communion, and I love communion. We do it once a month. Actually, let me tell you something about communion. Communion is a Jewish thing. Did you know that? Yeah, when Jesus was having that first one, it was actually the Passover. It was a Jewish, very important Jewish ceremony. And they were part of the ceremony is eating bread and drinking wine. And he says, this bread is me, and this wine is my blood. And it's a Jewish thing that they do once a year. But we do it once a month. And I love it. Why? The reason why I love communion is because it's my chance at the beginning of the month to start again. It's the very beginning, this is the first Sunday of the month. My month didn't start on October 1st. A couple of days ago. It starts today. Now, and I love communion because I feel, God, I'm going to obey. I'm doing my best this time around. It's over. What's done is done. And from here, I start again. By your grace, by your power, by the new life that's in me, as I drink this cup and I eat this bread. And I want to encourage you today. I don't know what you've been doing in the past few weeks, the past month, but God is here again, and He's offering you His body, His blood. Not to condemn you, but to set you free as you obey His word again this month. And I want to give you the opportunity, just here and now, no altar call, nothing like that. Just as you sit there and as you hear from God, make a decision in your heart. God, this is the month. I want to do it for you. I want to get right back to it. That's why I love communion. So if you get a moment, let's go ahead and pray. Let's pray. Do not merely listen to the word, and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says, it's like a man who looks at his face in the mirror, and after looking at himself goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. But the man who looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues to do this, not forgetting what he has heard, but doing it, he will be blessed in what he does. Offer your life to him again as we pray.